Switzerland, land of chocolate, cheese and referendums. Switzerland, the land of stunning mountains, delicious chocolate and enough watches to make a Time Lord jealous. But did you know it's also a country obsessed with referendums? That's right, the Swiss love a good vote. And in 2008, they had a lot to say. 10 times to be exact, that's 10 different issues, 10 opportunities for the Swiss people to directly shape their country. Think about that for a second. 10 referendums in 1 year. It's enough to make your average American voter's head spin. Just imagine if we had that kind of direct democracy here. Want to weigh in on healthcare? Boom, referendum. Think your local dog park needs a makeover? Referendum time, baby. The possibilities are endless and, frankly, a little terrifying. But let's not get sidetracked by our own hypothetical democracies. Let's delve into the fascinating world of Swiss referendums and see what went down in 2008. Buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride, or as wild as a ride through the Swiss Alps on a well-maintained train can be. So what exactly got the Swiss public fired up enough to head to the polls 10 times in a single year? Well, 2008 was a real mixed bag of issues covering everything from parental leave to gambling to animal rights. We're talking about the big stuff, the important stuff, the stuff that really gets people talking and possibly arguing over fondue. We had questions about expanding social safety nets, reforming drug policies, and grappling with the always thorny issue of immigration. Basically, if you were a Swiss citizen in 2008, you had a lot to think about and a lot of little squares to fill in on your ballot. Now, I know what you're thinking, John, this is all very interesting, but can you give us some specifics? Of course I can. Let's break down each of these 10 referendums one by one, shall we? Get ready for some direct democracy, Swiss style. First up on our Swiss referendum extravaganza, parental leave, because even in a country known for its precision timekeeping, sometimes you need a little flexibility when a tiny human enters the picture. The question at hand was whether to introduce paid paternity leave in Switzerland. That's right, paid time off for dads, or non-birthing partners, to bond with their newborns and help out with, well, everything that comes with a new baby. Now you might be thinking, paid paternity leave? That seems reasonable, and you'd be right. But in 2008, Switzerland, a country that prides itself on its social safety net, didn't have any federally mandated paid leave for fathers. The debate raged on. Supporters argued that it was about time dads got the recognition and support they deserved. Opponents worried about the costs and potential burdens on businesses. So, what was the verdict? Did the Swiss embrace a more progressive approach to parental leave, or did they stick with the status quo? Stay tuned to find out. Next up, let's talk about something a little more controversial. Referendum number 2 dealt with drug policy, specifically the legalization of cannabis for medicinal purposes. Now, before you start picturing the Swiss Alps transformed into a giant hemp farm, let's be clear, this wasn't about full-blown legalization. It was about allowing doctors to prescribe cannabis to patients suffering from certain medical conditions. The debate centered around the potential benefits of medical marijuana versus the potential risks. Supporters pointed to its effectiveness in treating chronic pain, nausea, and other ailments. Opponents raised concerns about potential abuse and gateway effects. It was a classic clash between those advocating for a more compassionate and evidence-based approach to drug policy and those clinging to the just say no mentality. So did the Swiss choose compassion or caution? Let's just say the results might surprise you. Section 5 referendum number 3, gambling regulations, rolling the dice on casino expansion. Ready to roll the dice on some gambling regulations? Referendum number 3 took aim at Switzerland's gambling laws, specifically whether to allow for the expansion of casinos. Now, Switzerland isn't exactly known for being a gambler's paradise, but there was a growing movement to loosen the reins a bit, to let people try their luck at blackjack and roulette without having to cross international borders. Supporters argued that expanded gambling would bring in much-needed revenue for the government and boost tourism. Opponents warned of the social costs associated with gambling addiction and organized crime. It was a classic battle between those who see dollar signs, or should I say, Swiss franc signs, and those who see the potential for social ills. So did the Swiss decide to double down on gambling? Or did they fold under pressure? Get ready for the results, because this one was a nail-biter. Section 6, referendum number 4, animal rights, giving a hoot about animal welfare. Hold on to your hats, animal lovers, because referendum number 4 was all about our furry, feathered and scaled friends. This one focused on strengthening animal protection laws, particularly for farm animals. We're talking about things like banning battery cages for chickens, ensuring more humane transportation of livestock, and requiring farmers to provide animals with adequate space and access to the outdoors. Basically, it was about treating animals with a little more respect and a lot less cruelty. The debate pitted animal welfare advocates against those who argued that the proposed measures would place an undue burden on farmers and drive up food prices. It was a classic case of balancing economic interests with ethical considerations. So, did the Swiss choose to prioritize animal welfare, or did they decide that a good schnitzel was worth a little animal suffering? The answer might surprise you, or it might not, because the Swiss do love their chocolate, and chocolate comes from cows, and cows are animals. It's a whole thing. Section 7, referendum number 5, tax reform, navigating the labyrinth of Swiss taxes. Taxes. The one thing we can all agree to complain about no matter where in the world we live. Referendum number 5 plunged headfirst into the complex and often tedious world of Swiss tax policy. The specific proposal on the table was a comprehensive reform package aimed at simplifying the tax code, reducing corporate taxes, and increasing individual deductions. Supporters argued that these changes would make the tax system fairer, more efficient, and more attractive to businesses. Opponents, on the other hand, worried that the reforms would disproportionately benefit the wealthy and leave the government with less money to fund essential services. It was a classic battle between those who believe in lower taxes and those who believe in a strong social safety net. So did the Swiss decide to give their tax code a makeover, or did they decide that some things are better left untouched, like a perfectly aged wheel of Gruyere cheese? The results will reveal all. Section 8, referendum number 6, immigration, opening doors or building walls. Hold on to your hats, folks, because things are about to get a little tense. Referendum number 6 tackled the always contentious issue of immigration. The specific proposal on the table was a controversial one, imposing stricter limits on the number of foreigners allowed to live and work in Switzerland. Supporters of the initiative argued that Switzerland was being overrun by immigrants, putting a strain on resources and threatening the country's cultural identity. They painted a picture of a Switzerland losing its unique character, overrun by outsiders. Opponents countered that Switzerland's economy relied on foreign workers and that closing the borders would be economically disastrous. They argued that diversity made Switzerland stronger, not weaker. It was a heated debate that exposed deep divisions within Swiss society. So, did the Swiss choose to open their doors wider or build walls? The answer reveals a lot about the state of the nation in 2008. Section 9, referendum number 7, environmental protection, saving the Alps, one vote at a time. Get ready to don your hiking boots and grab your reusable water bottles, because referendum number 7 was all about protecting Switzerland's stunning natural environment. The proposal on the table was a package of measures aimed at combating climate change, reducing air pollution and promoting renewable. Supporters argued that urgent action was needed to preserve Switzerland's pristine landscapes and ensure a healthy future for generations to come. They warned of melting glaciers, polluted air, and a planet in peril. Opponents, while not necessarily denying the reality of climate change, expressed concerns about the economic costs of transitioning to a greener economy. They argued that jobs would be lost and businesses would suffer if the government imposed too many regulations. It was a classic clash between those who prioritize environmental protection and those who prioritize economic growth. So, did the Swiss choose to be leaders in the fight against climate change? Or did they decide that economic prosperity trumped environmental concerns? The results will tell all. Results will tell. Section 10, referendum number 8, education reform, shaping young minds for the future. Hold on to your thinking caps, folks, because referendum number 8 was all about shaping young minds. The proposal on the table was a comprehensive set of reforms aimed at improving the quality of education in Switzerland. The specific measures varied, but they generally focused on increasing funding for schools, attracting and retaining qualified teachers, and modernizing the curriculum to better prepare students for the 21st century. Supporters argued that these reforms were essential to ensure that Swiss children received a world-class education and were equipped to compete in the global economy. They envisioned a future where Swiss students were at the forefront of innovation, leading the way in science, technology, and the arts. Opponents, while generally supportive of improving education, expressed concerns about the costs of these reforms and the potential for government overreach in the classroom. They argued that parents and local communities should have more control over their children's education. It was a classic debate about the role of government in education and the best way to prepare young people for the challenges and opportunities of the future. So, did the Swiss choose to invest in their children's future? Or did they decide that the current education system was good enough? The results will reveal all. Section 11. The aftermath. What did we learn from 2008? And there you have it, folks. A whirlwind tour through the 10 referendums that gripped Switzerland in 2008. We covered everything from parental leave to drug policy to animal rights to immigration to environmental protection to education reform. We saw the Swiss people grapple with complex issues, weigh competing priorities, and ultimately make decisions that shaped the direction of their country. So what did we learn? Well, for starters, we learned that the Swiss really love to vote. But more importantly, we learned that direct democracy, while messy and imperfect, can be a powerful tool for citizen engagement and political change. We saw how referendums can bring important issues to the forefront of public debate, force politicians to listen to the will of the people, and ultimately lead to a more responsive and accountable government. Of course, not everyone agrees with the outcome of every referendum, and that's okay. Democracy is about compromise, and sometimes it means accepting that your side doesn't always win. But even in defeat, there's value in knowing that your voice was heard, that you had a say in shaping the future of your country. And that's something worth celebrating, whether you're Swiss, American, or anywhere in between. So the next time you're feeling disillusioned with politics, remember the Swiss and their 10 referendums. Remember that change is possible, that your voice matters, and that even in a world of complex challenges, there's always hope for a better tomorrow. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to find some chocolate. Swiss chocolate, of course, because after all that talk about democracy, I deserve a treat.